Hello everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another boundary report, and this time I'm bringing you a game between my Pyre Legion and an opponent's Sylvaneth forces with some Stormcast Eternal allies. We'll be playing a self-created scenario today. We made it up on the fly when we met up, and it's going to be really simple. You see the windmill in the far right side of the board. My opponent needs to get one unit in touch with the door. I need to stop them. We have 6 turns to do that, and whoever at the end succeeds in their mission will win. As far as balance is concerned, since I'm on the defense, we figured I should have a little bit less scrolls than he does, so I'm going to bring 5, he's going to bring 7. We'll be using some of the rules from that book that came out about the same time that the new starter box came out. We'll specifically be using the Time of War rules from the Realm of Life Green Glades. We'll be borrowing the Spontaneous Growth rule, and my opponent will be rolling on the Triumphs table from that Time of War. He rolled up Moonstone of the Hidden Ways, and as these rules come into play, that's when I'll explain what they do. Other than that, the deployment zone is as follows. That center tile in the bottom here will be my deployment zone. The far left, or the left corner that you can barely see in this picture, will be my opponent's. We can set up in those tiles. We have to be 18 inches away from each other. So we'll start off with my opponent's deployment because he gets to deploy first, and then I'll deploy in response. So starting on the left flank, we have 16 Dryads. In the center, we have 4 of the Treekin, and these guys are going to look fantastic when he's done with them. He's making his own. In the dead center, we can see his Tree Lord Ancient. On the far right, we have another unit of Dryads the same size as the other ones. You're not going to be able to find it, I'm sure, but there is a Branch Wraith somewhere in there. And then on the far right corner, we have his Relictors, or Retributors, and his Lord Relictor. Moving on to my deployment zone, we have my 6 Dragon Ogres in the bottom. Then we have 10 Horrors up top. To the right of them will be 3 Flamers. And then as my last line of defense, we have my 12 Chaos Warriors and Kekus the Pyromancer. I win the roll-off to get the first turn, and so my strategy is pretty much this. I'm going to move up my Dragon Ogres and my Horrors and my Flamers to just be in the way, waste time, because he only has 6 turns to get to that windmill door, and he's going a pretty far distance. And then at the last minute, when he's almost there, because I expect him to get through these guys, my warriors will step in the way and burn out the rest of the time. So, as you can see here, that's what I'm doing. And I then go in the shooting phase, and I use the flamers to target those Treekin. And being that they're brand new models and he put so much hard work into them, I end up killing 3 of them already. So, and I think I put that last guy down to his last wound. My opponent does pass his Battle Shock test for those Treekin, and we move into his turn where he immediately sends a magical barrage from his Tree Lord Ancient and Branch Wraith at my Flamers, and luckily they live, but he does do a couple wounds. I was really afraid he'd kill them all off. From there, he pushes forward pretty hard. He tries a couple of charges, but he fails them ultimately. And here's just a picture of the Retributors and Lord Relictor. These guys are going to be so slow. They only move 4 inches. I think he would have been better served to put them in the center at least. So here's an overview of the board as we go into turn 2, and the Pyre Legion wins the roll-off. So I'm pretty excited. I need to intercept these Dryads as they get closer, so I'm going to move my warriors into a pretty good defense position. Unfortunately, that means I'm moving them into a forest, which if you guys have any experience with Dryads, it's probably not the best place to go, but I need to do something. So I got to work with what I have. I then move my Dragon Ogres forward because, man, they're going to be so awesome. 6 strong. This is the first time I've ever ran them like that in Age of Sigmar. They do have the Crushers. They're going to do 2 wounds apiece when they do wound. Really excited to see what they can do. I then finish off that last Treekin with my Flamers, and we move into charges where I promptly fail to get into combat. So that's so bad. Every time I use these Dragon Ogres, I feel like something bad happens or something just doesn't go my way. I mean, this isn't that big of a deal, but this is just a long trend that I've had with the Dragon Ogres. I love these models, but they always underserve. Another overview of the board as we go into the Sylvaneth Stormcast turn 2. He tries to use his magic, but I think I stop him because I don't take any wounds on these Dragon Ogres, as you can see in this picture. He moves his other units on the right side of the board, his Dryads and those Stormcasts closer to the river, trying to make it to those trees. And then he goes in the charge phase where he then promptly fails to make it into combat. So I don't know, maybe there's a very thick mud here or maybe some quicksand, but yeah, we're totally failing on all counts to get into combat. Unfortunately for me, he gets a do-over. He wins the next roll-off for the next turn, and he starts off by trying again to cast some magic. I end up stopping that, but then he uses his Doom Tendril Staff to target my flamers and completely wipes them out. Meanwhile, his forces on the right flank do continue to move forward, and that's going to lead him into his charge phase where the Dryads jump into these warriors. On the other side, we have the Dryads and the Tree King going into my Dragon Ogres, and that's where he starts his combat first, having his Dryad strike and ending up killing one of my Dragon Ogres. In response, I do use my Dragon Ogres because I want to try to knock down that Dreekin a level before he swings. I think I do successfully do that, and as you can see, I do end up killing a ton of Dryads. We then move on to the other side where I think he's already swung with his Dryads into my warriors, ended up killing one. And unfortunately for me, these guys, Dryads are so difficult to kill when they're in a forest that I don't think I kill one of his Dryads. So not a lot of damage on either side here, but I guess I am technically losing the war of attrition. We move into the Pyre Legion turn 3, where Kekus the Pyromancer casts an Arcane Bolt at the Tree Lord and manages to do a wound, further knocking him down a level. And then we have my Dragon Ogres finishing off all the Dryads in the combat phase. That Tree Lord, he can be pretty dangerous. He doesn't have a lot of attacks, but one of his attacks does do D6 wounds. And he's not doing too well. He's whiffing pretty much. We then move on to the other combat where it's a stalemate, but I'm a little bit more successful, killing off 3 Dryads, surprisingly. Here we are in turn 4 with the Sylvaneth win the roll-off, and so my opponent has been, up until this point, been rolling each turn in his hero phase for their special rule, Spontaneous Growth, just been waiting for a 6 to pop up, and this turn, it did. So he pops up a Wildwood anywhere on the table, and that clever little jerk put it right behind the objective. So this is a great move. This is what I thought was going to be a pretty easy win for me by just delaying and delaying. Is looking pretty bad now. I look really exposed, and I need to do something quick. However, pushing forward, we go into the combat phase, and this time the Tree Lord's attacks hit, and this is what happens when it hits. He outright kills 2 Dragon Ogres. It was really bad. I strike back doing a couple of wounds, but the damage has already been done. We move on to the other combat where we continue to be in a stalemate. I think I lose one. He may or may not have lost anybody. It's just nothing's going on there. He's too difficult to kill, and he's not terribly offensive. And so here we go into Pyre Legion turn 4, and it's a race against time. I'm desperately trying to get things over to that forest that popped up next to the windmill. That's what I'm doing with these horrors. These horrors suck. They haven't really done anything in this game. I'm going to go over something about that at the end of this video regarding the horrors. And then, so I'm trying to get the horrors over there. My sorcerer is already sitting over there camping out the forest because he has another ability that he hasn't used yet, which is called Moonstone of the Hidden Ways. When he uses the Moonstone, he can take any unit in a forest and transport it to another forest. And the only stipulation is that he has to deploy the unit 3 inches away from enemy units. So if I can get enough enemy units over there, I can make this kind of bubble area where he can't deploy his units. I'm not going to be able to completely stop him from transporting a unit, but I can make it to where when he does transport his unit, he's not already right next to the windmill's door. And that's the key of the mission, is to get a unit in next or touching the windmill's door. And remember, it's the door, not the windmill. So that's my plan. You can already see that Kekus is camping out the place, and I'm trying to get the horrors over there because he's going to activate that pretty soon. And I probably need 2 turns in a row to make this happen. Before Kekus left to go camp the forest, though, he made sure to kill a couple of the Dryads and make a spawn. You can kind of see them there in the background. I was trying to do that so I could tie up the tree branch also, so the tree wraith, doesn't just walk around the combat and make it to the door. Then we go into the combat where the Dragon Ogres take on the Tree Lord, and the Tree Lord continues to be pretty effective and kills off a whole Dragon Ogre again. So, and that's pretty tough because the Dragon Ogres have 5 wounds each. So he's rolling pretty well, despite beforehand he was not rolling well at all. I guess this is balancing it out. So let's get a look at the board before going to the all-important turn 5, where I'm hoping to get another turn. Here's an overview from the normal top part, and then here's a backside view from my opponent's point of view. A lot of things going on in that forest, and then we roll off to see who gets the next turn, and the Sylvaneth get the next turn. So I'm in pretty big trouble here. However, my opponent wants to make sure that when he does use this item, because you can only use it once, that the path is completely clear. So he's not going to use it just yet. He wants to make sure, or have a chance to kill off Kekus, who's right now camping in the forest. And so we go straight into combat, where the Tree Lord does do a couple more wounds to another Dragon Ogre. Luckily, he doesn't die. But finally, in return, I killed the Treekin. I've been whittling him down, and he finally died. We move into Pyro Legion turn 5, where we see Kaikus the Pyromancer fire another bolt of change into this combat, killing off more Dryads and transforming them into another Chaos Spawn. So I got 2 Chaos Spawns in this combat. The rest of the table has my units desperately trying to get over to this forest, but the Dragon Ogres are way too far away, and the Horrors are just rolling pretty badly here, so they're not going to make it. It's all down to Kaikus, really, and maybe if I can free up these Warriors fast enough, they'll be able to help out also. We go into that combat, and now having 2 spawn and the Warriors, and they've taken too many casualties, I finish off these Dryads. So as we turn into turn 6, it becomes really apparent that the forces of order got to act now. They're just going to run out of time. Then you put everything on the board. Then you can no longer afford to be cautious. They need to act now. And the first thing my opponent does is use his Branch Wraith to cast Arcane Bolt at the only impediment to any of his forces getting to that door, and that's Kaikus, who's only on 1 wound left. So the Arcane Bolt comes out of the Branch Wraith, hits Kaikus, and throws him across the forest. You know Kaikus can't die, but he's out for the count right now. Then the Branch Wraith activates the Moonstone of Hidden Ways, and I guess a bunch of tree branches come to life and form a little portal, and the Lord Relictor steps through this forest into the forest that's right next to the windmill. He only has a 4-inch move, I believe, or maybe a 5-inch move, so he moves it forward. We don't roll for the run just yet, even though you're supposed to, but we want to make it a little bit more dramatic. So this is where he ends up at the door. He needs 3 inches to get to the door. He rolls off, and the Lord Relictor makes it. So that's how the game ends. The nick of time, turn 6 of my opponent's turn. And that was a really fun game. And I think this game worked out very well for just being kind of an on-the-fly scenario that we created. We talked a bit about what we wanted to play, and then we thought, okay, well, here's the scenario. We talked about, is there any kind of loopholes that we know about? And I think we solved it pretty well. I mean, it was a 6x4 board. It was going to take them a little bit of time to get across the board, but those couple of special rules from the Time of War in the Realm of Life put another extra dimension on the game, and I really liked it. And even as I was doing this battle report, I got really excited about it because I don't know, it was a fun story to retell. So I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I do. And so let's go back and talk about those horrors, and in a completely unrelated topic that I just want to touch on real quick. So the quick thing I want to say about horrors is they're not very good. They're not bad. They're not god-awful bad. They're just not very good. They suck at combat, clearly. The shooting is okay. It's averages, and they're not terribly fast. That being said, though, I love horrors, and I want to use them. And so I think that they are a prime example of why you don't want to completely limit yourself to comp systems that focus on wounds alone. Because under those type of comp systems, you essentially write off entire units. People won't bring horrors really if we're basically saying all wounds are comparable. Now I know in fact that we all agree that they aren't comparable, but when we use a comp system, we are still saying that they are comparable. And so I think that is a weakness of that type of comp system. I don't have a solution. I think all comp systems are going to have a weakness. I so far do prefer a war scroll type of comp system where you just kind of bring equal or roundabout equals amount of war scrolls. Maybe in this game we did 5 against 7 because he was the attacker. We figured he probably needed a little bit of buffer room because I can just get dug into a defensive spot, making my units inherently better than his. So just something I wanted to put out there, don't lock yourself down by one comp system. Play the way you want to play. I think comp systems are the perfect exercise of that because I think that's a community of people saying we all like this style, so we're going to play this style. But even that being said, try to always step outside your box when it comes to things like that. So that's all I wanted to say about horrors. It was more, I guess, not about horrors, but things that the horrors exemplified. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this battle report. I thank everybody who's continued their subscriptions with me. I'm sorry I can't put out battle reports as often as I can. It's just really difficult to find people who are willing to play. And I hope you enjoyed this content. Please feel free to like and subscribe. I look forward to all your comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.